Could you please give your hands up for this year's winners?
Welcome to the Energy Manager's Playbook, produced by the IESO under the Save on Energy brand. I'm your host, Jay Mullin. Today's episode is a bit different from our typical fare. A couple of weeks ago, the IESO hosted the 2025 Energy Management Excellence Awards, and I'm joined by Tam Wagner, Director of Demand-Side Management at the Independent Electricity System Operator, to talk about the event and how it showcased real progress in a fast-changing environment. In this episode, you'll hear takeaways from award winners from a range of sectors about what contributed to their success and how Save on Energy programs help them achieve their goals. So, Tam, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation.
So the Energy Management Excellence Awards happen every year around this time, and you've been to a number of them. For listeners that have never attended, what about the event do you look forward to?
So first and foremost, it's all about celebrating the successes. I find that in our day-to-day work, we just get so busy with the doing. We don't take the time to pause and reflect and celebrate the things that we've done well and learn from the things that, while we might not necessarily define as, I put in quotation marks, success, there are learnings from that we can learn from. So I love the taking that time to reflect and so celebrate the great work that's been done in the sector. For me, it's also being able to come together as an energy manager community and just connect, network, and learn from each other around the experiences that each brings to the table.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. Like every year, we see some of the same people in that community in Ontario coming back together and a chance to connect with them, but also new people joining that maybe haven't attended before. And it's always a great opportunity to hear what they're working on. The day started off with some high-profile speakers, yourself and Chuck Farmer, the Executive Vice President of Power System Development at the IESO, provided some opening remarks, and Jim Harris, the author of Blindsided and one of North America's foremost thinkers on AI, disruption, and innovation, provided a keynote address. How did those speakers set the stage for the day?
I'd say one of the key themes that I heard from Chuck and Jim is around uncertainty.
The headlines have been dominated by the shifting dynamics in the Canada-US trade relationship and the resulting uncertainties that have emerged. But yes, the energy transition does continue, and the push to greater electrification is transforming our economy, our communities, and our province.
The other piece that Chuck spoke about is the key role that energy efficiency and demand-side management plays in a reliable, affordable, and sustainable energy future. We look at demand-side management, and I know this is something that I say to my folks at the IESO, is it's really unique in that it operates in that intersection point around the electricity system needs, but also customer needs as well. So there's almost a secret power that DSM and energy efficiency has. And Chuck really noted it, Jim as well, when they talk about energy efficiency and demand-side management being the lowest cost resource to meet system needs.
Yeah, I thought Jim's keynote address was really interesting. And I think he went so far as to call that uncertainty like a crisis around, changing workplaces with AI, changing grid demands in terms of EV and AI data centers. And that presenting a lot of challenges, but then also there really being an opportunity around that and an opportunity to take advantage of innovation and new technologies and new approaches to solve some of those challenges.
Wherever we have a crisis, there is both danger and opportunity. And I want to argue today there is huge opportunity. The most important people for the Ontario economy are right here in this room today, because we need an industrial scale effort around energy efficiency.
How do you see the Energy Management Excellence Awards fitting into that context for the day?
So in that face of a crisis, there's a couple ways that we can approach it. We can go about and try to find and address that crisis on our own, or we can really leverage each other's strengths and come together and try to face that together, learn from each other's experiences. And so the Energy Management Excellence Awards really sets the foundation and that opportunity to connect and to learn from each other, but then also level up and bring new solutions. So really bringing that sense of community and innovation together.
So that brings us to the first award winners of the day. Were Dream Unlimited, who owns and manages commercial and residential properties, the Hospital for Sick Children, and Algonquin College, who participated in a panel discussion about how to prioritize and determine the best order of operations in terms of, how do you balance conducting efficiency upgrades, existing system optimization, and electrification projects. And In that, we had Alan Dye from Sick Kids, Graham Tipperan from Algonquin College, and Nicholas Dumoulin from Dream. Was there anything about their discussion that really jumped out to you?
So overall, from a themes perspective, for me, it was really around adaptability and flexibility. I heard from Dream as well as Algonquin College and Sick Kids, they had unique circumstances that they each had to face and how they had a plan, but then were able to pivot on that plan as needed as well.
I think some of the interesting ones there, like being flexible, deal with uncertainty. I remember Nicholas from Dream talking about, they have to deal with tenant-occupied spaces.
We have to go and replace a lot of times the HVAC equipment that's on the floors in the tenanted space. So we can't necessarily do that when a tenant is placed. So we're really looking at opportunities when we have tenant turnover to then replace the HVAC equipment on that floor and do those deep retrofits.
So they have to be flexible in terms of, okay, here's the long-term plan, and we're going to work through that over time. I think that flexibility really comes into it.
It's also seizing each of those opportunities. So like you said, is they can't control what that tenant turnover is or when they have that time, but making sure that each time they have that, I'm going to put in quotation marks, that opening to do some work is they're making the most out of that time that they have, that space that they have to put forward and implement those solutions as quickly as possible.
For sure. And the other thing you mentioned, their unique circumstances. And I thought that was also really interesting, particularly in talking to Algonquin, where all three of these organizations had their own plans for decarbonization and energy efficiency. But Algonquin was really in a unique situation where, they have a large combined heat and power plant. So they're generating their own electricity on site. They're also in a region that's very grid constrained. So they're not focusing on that electrification as much as Dream or Sick Kids are, but are really focused on improving the efficiency of the energy on site and then looking long-term of how can they institute low carbon fuels into the generation instead of relying just on natural gas.
Yeah, and the other thing that Graham from Algonquin also said was around having that really clear objective, having a really clear key message associated with it and repeating it.
I probably had to present this strategy 3 or 4 times all the way up the chain, but now they basically just copy my words. So that's the way a good energy manager, you sit in the background and hope to hear your words recited from management.
Right. When you hear your words coming back from leadership, it's like, okay, I have made a difference. I've made an impact there.
They're listening. Yeah.
One of the other key themes was that uncertainty, but there was also the opportunity around innovation. Was there anything that jumped out on this panel in terms of innovative new approaches or how they're applying innovation that stood out?
I think this ties back to Jim's point as well around disruption and the role of artificial intelligence or AI in that. So we heard both Sick Kids and Dream talk about how they've been leveraging AI. And it's a mix of, yes, leveraging the power of AI, but also using, I'm going to call them historical or more traditional tools as well to really tap into the data that's available to understand where the problems, but also where the opportunities may be.
Right. Because Dream, they were using AI to help and evaluate potential projects. And meanwhile, Sick Kids, they have one of their newer buildings, their building automation system is AI powered. I think these were really great instances of, bringing in innovation, trying out new innovation, and looking for those opportunities to use new technology and approaches to achieve those goals, which I think was really endemic across all the winners that we had this year.
I think when we look at all of the winners from that panel, so Dream, Algonquin College, Sick Kids, I'm going to put in quotation marks, the customers that they serve are all very different, whether they be tenants, patients, or students. But with that is that there were things that we could learn from each of them and that they could learn from each other that they can bring back to the organizations. One of my core values is around teamwork and collaboration. And how do we not reinvent the wheel on things? And while the what of what we do, the challenges that we face may be different, I think there's an opportunity to really learn from each other on the approaches that are taken and then taking those approaches back to our own organizations, customizing it so it appropriately fits the work that we're doing back at our own organizations. But then being able to start at a point that's not step 1, but maybe step 5 or 6 or further along the line.
Exactly. In the afternoon, we had the second set of winners, which included Landmark Cinemas and Semtal, which is an auto parts manufacturing company that's part of Linamar. And we had Tony Campbell from Landmark Cinemas and Emily Dabrowski, who joined the panel on required skills for energy managers. So this was a bit different. The first panel focused on a more technical side of things. This was more, what are the skills that energy managers need to be successful? So what did you think of this panel discussion?
There were a couple of key things that I took away from it. With Tony, the work that he's done at Landmark has really resonated with me more from a personal level. We've all been to a movie theater. And what I appreciated from what Tony shared was getting that behind the scenes look at what it takes for us to be able to sit back and enjoy a blockbuster. One of the things that Tony said that I thought, I hadn't thought of it that way, is that the success that he's had at Landmark in evolving the projectors, which they were using xenon projectors previously, and switching them over to laser.
A laser light source consumes, depending on what it's replacing, anywhere between 30 and 65% less electricity. Plus you get the added benefits of xenon lamps produce a lot of heat. So you have to have a 5 horsepower exhaust fan running for every projector, a lot of HVAC in the booth. We've been able to eliminate all of that with the laser retrofit.
For me, it was really neat to kind of think, okay, this is an experience that I have from a day-to-day perspective, and this is what's happening behind the scenes.
Right. You get to see the other side of that little window at the back of the theater.
Exactly. That's what's happening behind the curtain. The other piece for me as well, from a skills perspective, so I am an electrical engineer by trade, so definitely appreciate the engineering technical side of things. I believe Tony was a chemical engineer or has chemical engineering experience, while Emily came from a sports psychology background. And the two of them found themselves in energy management. And with both of them, not something that believe if you ask their younger selves, would they find themselves there? Yes, they've learned the technical side of energy management, but it's some of those more common soft skills or the business skills around communications and being able to speak in others' language so they can understand what's in it for them in order to get that buy-in and support.
Mm-hmm. And actually, that what's in it for them, Emily's story I found really interesting, where she changed out compressed air nozzles in their facility and changed out a bunch of them on a bunch of the lines, and then came in the next week and the operators had taken them off and replaced the old nozzles.
Before, it was a really big kickback while using the original air guns. So when they didn't feel that with the new ones, they thought that it was using less force and it was using less power.
Then she had to sort of take a step back and reapproach it and really educate and engage them of, no, they're more effective and there's less kickback because they generate, that flow of air better. And there's actually a health and safety aspect because there's, less repetitive stress on your hands when you're using these tools. And then after putting that effort to engage and educate the team and help them understand what was in it for them, then it turned into this big success where, okay, now they were accepting of it. Now they could get that project moving forward. It sort of took out that roadblock and allowed that success to happen.
Absolutely. I think the other thing that Emily and Tony spoke about in that they took different approaches was where the expertise came from in order to be able to sell it to their organizations. I think Tony had spoke about really leaning in and leveraging consultants because his team is so lean at Landmark. And so it made sense for them to leverage external expertise to put forward the projects and get that buy-in. Whereas with Emily, she really leaned into the internal expertise from the different departments within Semtal. So again, it's one of those examples around there are different ways to approach a problem and also the solutions associated with that problem. Knowing what those options are and looking to see what best fits for your organization is a key role of the energy managers.
One thing that I found really interesting on Emily's side is she said that coming from sports psychology and working in health and safety, she developed a lot of skills in terms of rallying people around a common cause.
Teamwork really does make the dream work. Having the ability to rally team members and get them to come together and work towards a common goal has been very beneficial.
That's a really important and often overlooked skill of people leading these initiatives, where you have to get staff, you have to get leadership, management, all on board in moving these projects, these initiatives forward. So I thought that was a really interesting take from her.
I think the other benefit of doing that as well is I say to my team, I know what I know. I know there's a lot that I don't know as well. So when you have others that are bought in and understand the work that you're doing, they come up with some of those ideas. And they may be big ideas. They may be, I'm going to say, smaller or simpler.
Not as big ideas.
Not as big ideas, exactly. But each of them can be very effective in how they can address a challenge. So being able to rally a team together and empower them to come forward with those ideas as well can also help with moving your organization along their energy efficiency journey.
In both of the panel discussions, we heard from the winners talk about how different Save on Energy programs help them along the way, whether through capital incentives, building recommissioning incentives to help optimize the existing buildings, or through the Strategic Energy Management Program, which helps them build that internal capability. As someone who's very involved in the development and delivery of these programs, what's it like to hear that from those winners?
It was one of the highlights of my day. So I've been to a number of these Energy Management Excellence Awards and the Energy Manager Awards. Before that, I would say with this past celebration, it was the first time I heard our programs not just referenced, but really talked about in quite that detail from folks that aren't the IESO. At the IESO, we know our programs and we know the breadth of our offerings and how each program has its unique characteristics, whether it's around incentivizing for capital investments or helping to transform policies and processes within your organization. We see that bigger picture and how each of our programs fit into it. It was great to hear the participants praise the value that Save on Energy programs have brought to their work and their organizations. It was an affirmation of the difference that we're making at the IESO and that the work that we're doing is connecting and clicking with folks. The last thing we want to do is be developing programs that aren't helpful to organizations. We pride ourselves in connecting with stakeholders and participants, whether they're current participants or potential participants, to understand how our programs are working for them, but also how they're not and where there are opportunities to improve them. So to hear the number of programs that were referenced from our panelists, whether it be our retrofit program that does provide those rebates for equipment retrofits and upgrades, or as you noted, the existing building commissioning program or our strategic energy management program, which really is around that energy manager community. It was great to hear that folks were not just using them and not just using one of them, but were really taking advantage of the breadth of the Save on Energy programs.
Yeah, and it was great hearing from them the practical outcomes. Like Tony talked about how support from Save on Energy really helped accelerate their efforts within Landmark Cinemas. Dream gave credit to the Strategic Energy Management Program to, help them lay out that plan and get those resources moving in the same direction. And Algonquin pointed to the recommissioning incentive that helped them, get their buildings operating more efficiently. And then the capital incentive too, they mentioned about those rooftop units. So I know the IESO and Save on Energy, you've been doing this for quite a while with these programs and have achieved quite a lot on that. So what is your view of, how that has helped with Ontario and kind of what's next for these programs as we face the uncertainty that Jim and Chuck talked about at the beginning of the day?
Yeah, what we've been delivering energy efficiency programs under the Save on Energy brand since 2011. And over that time, so we're talking about 14 years here, we've been able to save 19 terawatt hours of energy. And so that's the equivalent of being able to power the city of Ottawa for 2 years. So that's a significant achievement. And it's not the IESO, or not just the IESO that's done that. It's really around the energy manager community and all of the organizations and homeowners in Ontario that have participated and contributed to that. It's really that speaking to that superpower of energy efficiency around customers being able to contribute. It helps a homeowner or business owner in that it provides another tool to manage your energy use and with that your energy bills. And at the same time, the added benefit of being able to provide and support the grid. Being able to hear the energy managers at the Energy Management Excellence Awards speak about that amongst their peers, it helps to build, yes, broader awareness for our programs, but more importantly, it helps to build trust in the work that we're doing at the IESO.
One of the things I love about Save on Energy, you have these official programs, but there's also this other work that you've been doing around capability building. And part of that has been around developing that community of practice around energy management. And the awards is one part of this, but there's also discussion groups and other things. And I've seen firsthand that value of, hearing from other people, from peers in similar situations about, hey, this really worked for me, or I went through this process, and the impact that can have in moving everyone forward is really impactful. And I really love that about the awards.
Absolutely. And I think to the earlier point around uncertainty is we develop our programs and we develop it based on input and insights at that moment. But what we know is the sector and organizations and how you do business is rapidly evolving. So from an IESO perspective, it's important for us to continue to understand how things are changing in your organization, in your home, so that we can be responsive and hopefully be proactive, at a minimum be reactive, but make sure that we can meet you where you're at with regards to where the energy efficiency opportunities are. So we very much believe in seeking stakeholder feedback and input when it comes to our programs, and not just new programs. We've got, when I think about something like our retrofit program, it's our flagship program. It's been around for quite a long time. We're constantly evolving that program. We set aside time to make sure we do semi-annual updates to the programs, and that's based on insights and intel from the community and the stakeholders. So really encourage folks to reach out to folks at the IESO, reach out to your whomever you're working with, whether it be your service provider or your local utility. Share that feedback, because we absolutely are listening to that and seeing where the opportunities are to continue to enhance our programs to better serve you.
Right. Because at the beginning of the day, yourself and Chuck and even Jem mentioned, the value of conservation, of demand side management programs, how they're, the cheapest form of energy and they don't require permits to put in place and all of that type of work. So that combined with the uncertainty around growing demand, electrification of heat and from AI data centers, it sounds like that's going to continue to play a big role. And Safe on Energy continues to have new programs to address those needs coming out as well.
Absolutely. The minister recognized this as well and directed the IESO with a funding commitment of over a 12-year period, which is the longest commitment that we've seen in Ontario and actually Canadian history, and a $10.9 billion investment in our energy efficiency, our Save on Energy programs. So there's absolutely a lot of opportunity for us to not just continue to do the great work that we're doing when it comes to demand side management, but continue to grow that, whether it be additional participation in our programs. We know there are great organizations that are participating in our programs today. One of the things I say back at the shop is that we're seeing those organizations continue to participate in our programs, and it's not the same incentives they're looking at. They're leveling up some more and raising the bar around what energy efficiency measures they can install in their organizations.
Coming back to the awards day, we talked about the speakers and the panel discussions, but that was really only part of the day. There was also, breakout rooms, networking. Was there anything else from the event that stood out to you or jumped out?
For me, one of the other things that set this event apart from the previous years was just the openness that everyone came with and the curiosity to learn more. And I would say we absolutely celebrated the award winners. We also acknowledged the finalists, because there were really great applications that the IESO received for the Energy Management Excellence Awards. And everyone that came to the awards event came with very much an open mind, very open to share their learnings, and definitely kudos to the award winners in that regards. And everyone else came with the curiosity to ask questions. I didn't feel like folks were holding back at all, which I think is really refreshing and really embraces that community feel. And how do we really learn from each other and continue to grow together?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really appreciate that. A lot of the winners, they brought their entire team there. And the whole team was really excited to talk about the work that they were doing, not just in the panel discussions, but in the networking, in between the sessions on that, to share what was working for them, the lessons they learned, and even the other attendees. I'm always floored at these events of just how much expertise and knowledge is in the room.
Absolutely. And I think with that, we talk about continuous improvement and the IESO continuing to enhance our programs. I think really an important part of that is being curious to learn. And as we each learn from each other, we continue to raise the bar around the what's next. And being able to have those conversations helps us hone into, okay, where are the areas where I might want to explore the what's next?
At the beginning of the day, we sort of talked about how the big theme was around uncertainty or even crisis in the current situation, but how there's opportunities within that. After hearing from the winners, the panelists, other people at the event, do you feel like we're in a good position to take advantage of those opportunities?
100%. I think we're in a great position for that. What the day showcased was some of the incredible work that energy managers are doing within their organizations. We definitely see that there's a lot of innovation happening. We talked about leveraging AI. I think one of the things I heard, and for me, it just really resonated because it's really simplified the opportunity there, is we don't always have to think big. We can really move the needle by asking simple questions like what is on and does it need to be on, where those small changes can really ladder up to make a really big impact.
And innovation can mean very different things in those organizations. And some of them, like Sick Kids, it's getting a building that's controlled by AI, whereas others, it's, we're getting started and it's just taking a new approach within our organization, but it's still new to them. The importance of that and that mindset moving forward, I think really makes a difference and an impact, and it's going to be really important, particularly with the uncertainty in the market moving forward.
And I think with that, it really highlights the importance of collaboration and working together, whether it's working together within your organization or working together across a sector.
So we've both attended the Energy Management Excellence Awards over the years on a number of occasions. Was there anything that you felt was different about this one compared to previous years?
It just keeps growing bigger. In the past, this was a half-day event, and through the feedback and response from the participants, we've evolved it to a full-day event, and it's sold out each time. So there's definitely an interest, a curiosity from the energy manager community to have this type of event to, like I said, celebrate, but also to network and to continue to learn and grow your own personal skill sets and knowledge base. I also found we're thinking bigger. I mentioned a $10.9 billion investment in the work that we're doing in energy efficiency and save on energy. So we need to think bigger, and I really see the community rising to that challenge.
Yeah, I think at the beginning in Jim's speech, he had some examples about how things that people once thought were impossible are now just standard, are just part of every day.
In 1900, human flight was impossible. You could talk to any expert at any university anywhere in the world, and they would categorically tell you it was impossible. And then in 1903, the brothers Wright flew their plane for 12 seconds, 120 feet. And what was impossible on December 16th apparently became possible on December 17th.
I think that really speaks to that in terms of those new opportunities. And as you said, I see this event growing. As you mentioned, it's grown a lot. It's evolved. It's getting a bigger profile. And I really see that mimicking what's happening within organizations in terms of energy management, where a lot more we see energy management, emissions management getting a higher profile within organizations, getting more resources, more recognition of the importance of that as a strategic priority moving forward.
At the IESO, our demand-side management work is absolutely a key strategic priority of the organization. Maybe a challenge I can put out to those listening is, how do we bring others from your organization into these events as well, so that they can see some of the successes that are happening across the sector to help you do your work back at the organization and elevate the work that you're doing. Those who aren't in, I'm going to say, that department or that team are starting to lean in. They're starting to ask questions, which I think is a wonderful thing for everyone in the space. And so how do we help them continue to realize the value that energy efficiency and demand side management brings to the table? It's definitely realized and acknowledged at the IESO. So how can we help each of the energy managers bring that to their organizations?
Because we heard from all the winners that their success didn't come from, them as an energy manager plugging away in their office to move these projects forward. Their success came from bringing in people across the organization, the leadership, the different departments, everyone playing a role. Everyone has a role in managing energy and energy efficiency. Let's bring them into these conversations as well.
I welcome it.
Tam, thank you so much for joining me today to talk about the Energy Manager Excellence Awards. And hopefully we'll see you again there next year.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a real pleasure and I had a lot of fun.
The Energy Management Excellence Awards are about recognizing the achievements of Ontario organizations and the people that contribute to them. But more than that, I see them as a celebration of a community that Save on Energy has invested in and nurtured. Having an opportunity to hear from the award winners, from the people that led the projects and energy management efforts, about what contributed to their success is so valuable. And bringing together over 130 professionals focused on energy management in one place is such an incredible opportunity to learn what others are doing, what challenges they're facing, and make connections that last beyond this one-day event. The changes that are happening around us are causing uncertainty and posing challenges and causing stress, but hearing about the incredible work that's happening all across the province, how people are innovating and developing new tools and solutions and developing flexible approaches to navigate that uncertainty and take advantage of new opportunities is really inspiring. Thank you to Tam Wagner and the Independent Electricity System Operator. And congratulations to this year's winners, whose examples will help the community move faster with confidence. If you want to learn more about this year's award winners, the IESO has produced videos highlighting their achievements that you can watch on the Save on Energy site. You can find the link to those in the show notes. And I hope to see you at next year's awards. I'm Jay Mullin, and this has been the Energy Manager's Playbook, a podcast from Save on Energy.